More berries! Get 'em! Tumak, you throw like a cave bear! Hey, look! Berries! Gently now. Put them in the basket like this.
What's this?
Look! Fire! Gone!
Just a little more air.
Grok, I think you made rain clouds!
We're traveling back to the Stone Age, where humans are just learning how to communicate and facing the first funny misunderstandings. The young hunter Tumak decides they need to gather berries. He points at the bushes and throws them toward the elder Grok. All the other tribe members start following him, breaking branches and throwing berries at each other. One hunter accidentally throws a berry in another's face, causing a chain of clumsy reactions. Someone falls into the bushes, someone else tries to catch the berries like a ball, and everyone laughs. This misunderstanding turns into a funny scene where no one understands how to gather berries properly. Grok proudly demonstrates how he makes fire. When he lights dry leaves, the fire flares up but then sputters and dies. Grok desperately waves his arms, trying to rekindle the fire, but only makes more smoke. When he finally lights the fire again, his face is covered in soot, and the whole tribe laughs. Despite all his pride, Grok can't help but laugh too. The hunters stand in a circle, waiting for the signal to start the hunt. One of them enthusiastically starts moving as if preparing to dance. The rest of the hunters decide to follow him, not realizing this is not the start of the hunt. The dance moves mix with hunting gestures, and everyone begins jumping around the fire. When they realize their mistake, they start chasing each other, and the attempt to start the hunt ends in laughter. Instead, they decide to just keep dancing. The tribe decides to build a trap for a mammoth. They use trees and stones to catch the huge beast. However, one hunter accidentally steps on a rope, and the trap goes off on him. He falls into a pit, screaming in fear, but everyone quickly pulls him out. They all start laughing at his unfortunate position, but in the end, they don't manage to catch the mammoth. The hunter, who was teaching others how to shoot arrows, finally releases his first arrow. It flies through the air and hits a tree right next to a rabbit, which calmly stands, not understanding what happened. Everyone looks in astonishment, and the female rabbit, seeing the arrow, slowly walks away. The hunter looks at his arrow with disappointment, while the others just start laughing at the situation. At the Council of Elders, Grok tries to demonstrate his wisdom by sharing ideas that no one understands. He speaks for a long time with great enthusiasm about the importance of wisdom for the tribe, but in the end, everyone just asks him what he meant. The elders decide to tweak their plan, remove important words and make it shorter so everyone can understand. When it starts raining, everyone begins to worry about how to hide from the water. But one hunter, not realizing that rain can be their friend, decides to stand under a waterfall, enjoying being wet, saying that it cleans the soul. The others look in astonishment but soon join him, laughing and playing in the rainy weather. A group of hunters decides to try hunting waterfowl. They approach the lake with bows and arrows, ready to hit the birds, but it ends with them falling into the water while trying to shoot. One of them accidentally shoots his own hide, and everyone starts laughing at how ridiculous they look. In the end, they decide that hunting in the water is not for them. While working on building huts, the tribe decides to plant a few trees to make the forest more beautiful. One hunter comes up with the idea to use the trees as natural poles for construction. However, the trees start falling in the wrong direction. Eventually, they decide that trees are not the best building material, but everyone starts joking that forest styles are still worth appreciating. The tribe decides to pick the most beautiful stone to use for decorating the fire. The selection process becomes so complicated that everyone starts arguing over which stone is the best. This leads to the formation of small subgroups within the tribe, each deciding that their stone is the most perfect. One of the hunters decides he needs to learn how to fly. He finds a few feathers and ties them to himself, trying to jump from high rocks. Of course, nothing works and everyone laughs at his efforts, but no one dares to tell him that humans can't fly. In the evening, the tribe gathers around the fire, where everyone shares stories of their failed hunting attempts, berry hunts, and other adventures. When someone tells an incredible story about meeting a giant bear, everyone laughs because they all know it was just a rabbit. But this is the essence of the tribe. They share joys and difficulties together. They laugh at mistakes, teach each other, and feel part of a big community. The hunters decide to observe wild animals to learn their behaviors. One hunter tries to pretend he's just like a wild beast to get closer to the mammoth. He starts crawling on all fours and roaring loudly, but of course he looks pretty ridiculous. The animals don't react, and the others watch in confusion until they start laughing. The tribe decides to go through the mountains to find new hunting grounds. On the way, they encounter high cliffs, but their path is blocked by a stone wall. The tribe decides to build a bridge using trees, but they accidentally place it on a slope, and the bridge collapses. Everyone stays alive, but after several falls and chaos, the tribe decides to return to their usual routes. The hunters decide they need to grow plants, but instead of working with the soil, they start tearing up plants by their roots and replanting them, not realizing that this disrupts their growth. When the plants start dying, they think they picked the wrong time to plant. They awkwardly watch the plants disappear and promise to work more carefully next time. The tribe decides to use a stone for creating tools, but as they try to use it, the stone turns out to be too heavy and inconvenient. One hunter decides to make the stone stronger by hardening it, but it just breaks. Everyone starts laughing until they realize they can use lighter materials for tools. One day, someone accidentally sets fire to the grass, and a small fire quickly becomes a threat to the entire village. The hunters try to put out the fire, running with buckets of water, but they do it so clumsily that the water often ends up in the wrong places. Eventually, the fire is put out, but everyone starts laughing as they see the hunters holding wet hides and buckets of water that look more like props. While working on building huts, the tribe decides to plant a few trees to make the forest more beautiful. One hunter comes up with the idea to use the trees as natural poles for construction. However, the trees start falling in the wrong direction. Eventually, they decide that trees are not the best building material, but everyone starts joking that forest styles are still worth appreciating. The tribe decides to pick the most beautiful stone to use for decorating the fire. The selection process becomes so complicated that everyone starts arguing over which stone is the best. This leads to the formation of small subgroups within the tribe, each deciding that their stone is the most perfect. One of the hunters decides he needs to learn how to fly. He finds a few feathers and ties them to himself, trying to jump from high rocks. Of course, nothing works and everyone laughs at his efforts, but no one dares to tell him that humans can't fly. In the evening, the tribe gathers around the fire, where everyone shares stories of their failed hunting attempts, berry hunts, and other adventures. When someone tells an incredible story about meeting a giant bear, everyone laughs because they all know it was just a rabbit. But this is the essence of the tribe. They share joys and difficulties together. They laugh at mistakes, teach each other, and feel part of a big community. As the moon rises high above the jagged cliffs, a new day begins with a daring experiment. Tumak, still picking berry seeds out of his hair, decides the tribe needs a better way to cross the roaring stream. He finds a long, fallen log and tries to balance on it like a bird. Naturally, the log rolls. Tumak performs a frantic, wobbling dance before splashing into the shallow water. The tribe, watching from the bank, thinks this is a new game. Soon, 20 hunters are trying to balance on logs, turning the stream into a chaotic mess of splashing limbs and floating timber. They don't cross the river, but they do discover that floating is much more fun than walking. Meanwhile, Grok has a brilliant idea for a new invention. Shoes. He wraps his feet in thick moss and ties them with vines. He walks with great dignity, feeling like a giant, until the moss gets soaked with dew. Suddenly, his shoes weigh 10 pounds each. Every step sounds like a wet squelch, and he leaves behind a trail of green slime. The children of the tribe start mimicking his heavy, squelching walk, creating a parade of muddy feet. Grok tries to look serious, but when his mossy shoe slides off and hits a passing turkey, the entire valley echoes with prehistoric giggles. Later, the tribe encounters a cave with a narrow entrance. They decide it's the perfect place to store their winter supplies. However, they try to push a massive, round boulder inside to act as a door. 5 strong men push with all their might, but the boulder is slightly too big. It gets stuck halfway. Now, they can't get into the cave and they can't get the rock out. Instead of being upset, they turn the stuck boulder into a drum. They spend the afternoon hitting the rock with sticks, creating the world's first rock concert, while the mammoth they were supposed to be tracking watches them from a distance, looking very confused. As the sun sets, a young girl named Mila discovers art. She picks up a piece of charcoal from the fire and draws a circle on a flat stone. The elders gather around, whispering in awe. They think it's a map to a secret treasure. They spend hours turning the stone around, trying to find the hidden path, only for Mila to point at the sun and then at her drawing. The elders realize it's just a picture of the sky. They look at each other, shrug, and start drawing circles on everything. Their faces, the trees, and even Grok's bald head. The day ends not with a successful hunt, but with a celebration of being alive. They realize that while they may not have conquered the wild, they have conquered the art of friendship. As the stars twinkle above, the tribe falls asleep, dreaming of new ways to fail spectacularly tomorrow. Close your eyes and let the world fade away. May your dreams be as sweet and beautiful as your soul. Sleep tight, my dear, and wake up refreshed. Good night, good night, good night.